Hey, yo, what's good? I'm back once again with another movie review, man. I haven't done a movie review in a minute. This is actually my second recording of this movie review because that first review it came out really good, but the audio, I was moving my hands around a lot and I'm holding the mic, so I was moving my hands and the audio wasn't good at all, man. It was crackling all throughout the review, so I have to do this whole review over again. But there were some parts that I did not mention in my initial review, so I'm kind of glad that I'm actually re-recording this and doing like a second take. But anyway, man, if you haven't read the title already, I'm going to be talking about Bob Marley, man, One Love. I know I'm quite late on doing this review because this movie did come out a few weeks ago, and when I first saw the trailer, man, I was just like, what the hell is this? One of the things that stuck out to me the most was who was playing Bob Marley, because the guy who they chose to play Bob Marley does not really look like Bob Marley at all. That really turned me off. And then just some other things in the trailer, I was just like, I don't know, this looks low budget, this looks kind of cheap. I'm not sure if this movie is going to be good. I have great doubts about that. And now seeing the movie, yeah, those doubts turn into reality because this movie was complete shit. I will say, though, that, you know, seeing Bob Marley, the main actor who played Bob Marley in this movie, he doesn't look as bad as what I initially thought from the trailer. But still, it's like, I think they could have done a little bit better. Actually, the actor who played the younger Bob Marley in the movie, because throughout the movie they have like flashback scenes of when like Bob Marley was like younger, like in his teen years. The guy who they chose to play like the younger Bob Marley, I felt like he's a much more better representation of how Bob Marley looks physically. So I think that they should have gotten him, but he looks like a younger kid. I don't know how old the actor is who played the younger version of Bob Marley in that movie, but I think he looks more like Bob Marley than the actual main actor who played like the adult Bob Marley. But overall, man, this movie, like I said before, this movie is complete trash. This movie is terrible. One of the main problems that I have with this movie is that this movie is like absolutely about nothing. It seems like there's nothing going on, even though you see things going on in the movie. There's no sort of direction. Like it just felt like the producers or the writers of this film had no idea of a script on how to write Bob Marley's story, and they just went with the most basic information about Bob Marley's life, and they just said, hey, let's just show, you know, scenes of Bob Marley getting shot before his concert. Hey, let's show the famous scene of him playing soccer. Like, they made sure to add like the most basic stuff that everybody already knew. And that's pretty much it. This whole movie is a waste of time. There's nothing here that you're going to be like, oh, I didn't know Bob Marley did that in his life. And I didn't know this about Bob Marley. Like, there's none of that. Everything in this movie is something that you already know. If you're like a general Bob Marley fan, you pretty much know everything in this movie even before going out and seeing it. So it's just a big waste of time. The story, like I said, there's no story at all. It just seems like it just jumped from scene to scene to scene. Certain characters pop up and you're like, wait a minute, like, where did this character come from? Like, where's the development? Where's the chemistry? And that's the other thing too. Like, this movie has no chemistry between the characters. There's no character development at all. Every single character is lifeless. They have no depth, no nothing. You would think that with Bob Marley and his band, the Wailers, you would think that they'll show a lot of chemistry, a lot of you know, the inner turmoils and stuff like that. It's none of that here. The dialogue is, it gets pretty cringy at times. The acting, same thing. The only character that I did like in this movie was the wife of Bob Marley. And she's actually the same actress who played in Captain Marvel. She was Monica Rambeau's mother. I think she was like the best out of all of them. Like, she acted really good. Her Jamaican accent was really, really good. And I liked her character a lot, even though they didn't really give her much to work with, but she did what she had to do. to make this movie at least a little bit better. But every other character, man, is just they're lifeless. It was like while I'm watching the movie, it just felt like I was just watching nothing. Like the editing, the pacing is just all off. It's all jank. With most biopics, they show like the young artists on the rise. You know what I mean? Especially music biopics. Like they show the young artists in their youth growing up, going through certain things in their youth to try to make it into the movie business, into the entertainment business. And you see that development over time as the movie progresses. You know what I mean? But in this movie, it's quite different because it doesn't start off as Bob Marley, like when he is a little kid, like growing up in Jamaica, and they don't show none of that. It actually shows it, like the movie starts off with Bob Marley actually being the star. Like he's already grown. It takes place around 1977. So he's already a big star in Jamaica already. He already have hits out and stuff like that. So it doesn't start off from like when Bob Marley was young and, seeing that rise, seeing that natural progression of him becoming a reggae artist. They don't show that at all. And it, like I said, it just starts off with him actually, he's already a major star in Jamaica already. And I just felt like that was a big mistake, man. I really feel like they should have started with Bob Marley in his youth, growing up in Jamaica and telling those stories that a lot of people may not even know about Bob Marley. And with this movie, they don't do none of that. They make sure they add the main things, with him getting shot before a major concert, him playing soccer and, him finding out he has cancer because, his foot got injured while playing the soccer game. Like, that's the main stuff. So, of course, they're going to add that, and him with his ties to Rastafarianism. Like, there's mentions of that, of course, but they don't really go in depth. I don't really feel like they really told his story at all. It's just like highlights of his life, like the main highlights of his life, and just doing like reenactments of that. Like if you were to watch a Bob Marley documentary and how they have reenactments in the documentary, I felt like that's what this movie is. Like just reenactments of highlights of his life. And like I said before, you could tell that the script writers and the producers, they had no idea of a script. They had no idea of a direction to tell Bob Marley's story. And they could have told it in so many, like there's ways to tell a Bob Marley story. They could have focused on his, his Rastafarian beliefs, him going to Ethiopia, actually, I think when he went to Ethiopia, I think he did meet Haile Selassie. Or, of course, no, he didn't meet Haile Selassie. I think he saw the statue of Haile Selassie and he got inspired. And this is where the whole Rastafari, like they should have did something like that. If you were to tell a Bob Marley story, I think they should have really focused on the Rastafarian aspect. That's one direction they could have took it. Or they could have, like I said, tell his story from his youth and show that rise. You know what I mean? Just like all other biopics do. But, the way how they did it is like, okay, we're just going to start you off with Bob Marley. He's already the star. And then, we'll sprinkle in certain flashback scenes here and there when Bob Marley was younger. We'll show, one scene where, him and his band, the Wailers, are trying to come up in the music biz and stuff like that. But nothing is fleshed out in this movie at all. Like I said, it just seems like they had no direction in the script. Like they had no script. It was just like freestyling it almost. That's what this movie felt like. One big freestyle. Like, okay, we're going to show one scene where Bob Marley gets shot. Then, for whatever reason, Bob Marley feels like he has to go overseas because, the tension in Jamaica. And that's the other thing, too. They didn't really show, like, the political tension in Jamaica around that time. Like, they did mention it in the movie, but they didn't really show it. There wasn't really, like, so you felt nothing. They just mentioned, like, hey, like, Bob Marley was like, hey, I got to go overseas because of all this political tension going on in my country right now. But they don't really depict that in the movie. So you don't really feel that. You don't really feel any political tension going on. You don't feel like the rush for him to get out of his country so he could, kind of like focus on music. Like, they don't show any of that. It's just glossed over and it's just briefly mentioned. And that's with other things in this movie as well. Like, you know, how did his band with the Wailers come about? You know, I think they should have showed that, how he met his wife and stuff like that. Yeah, there are certain flashback scenes with him and his wife, you know, getting together in his teenage years, but they don't really show like when they first met and stuff like that. There was just ways to make this a better movie. There was directions that they could have took to make this a better movie. They could have wrote a much better script. From what I heard, they kind of base the movie around interviews that Bob Marley had back in the day, and what he said in those interviews, and that makes a lot more sense to me. I felt like that's actually what happened. Like, they just based this whole movie around interviews they heard from Bob Marley way back in the day, and they just said, hey, we're just gonna put that in the movie. It's just the most basic, bland biopic you could ever make. You know, and if you're a Bob Marley fan, you're not gonna learn anything from this movie. You're not gonna learn anything from this movie. If you're thinking you're gonna go into a movie, you're gonna see like Bob Marley's life, you know, played out in a feature film, you're gonna be sadly disappointed, because it's just, like I said, it's just the basic highlights of Bob Marley's life. And I just felt like, man, they could have came a lot more stronger, man. I felt like if they wanted to make like a feature-length film on Bob Marley, they should have just, if they didn't have any idea of an actual script, then they just go documentary style. Just have a documentary on Bob Marley and just show like unseen footage of his life. That would have been much better, because the best part of the movie was the very end, when they showed like actual clips of the real life Bob Marley, and also the music, of course. That's the only things that's good in this movie. Everything else is complete trash, because they had no direction in it. There's no script. They just said, hey, we're just gonna improvise a scene where he gets shot, and he's just gonna go to this place, and then he's gonna go to that place, and then they're gonna show him playing soccer. And so yeah, at the end of the day, this movie is all over the place. This movie is a mess. No sort of direction. It just seems like this movie had no script at all, and it just felt like this movie was just a complete waste of time. This movie just felt like a movie about nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I think I said everything that I wanted to say. Hopefully the audio is much better in this. And I don't know when it's gonna be my next movie review, but I think I should start making more movie reviews more often, man, because I've been abandoning my YouTube channel, and I feel like, you know, I should take it a little bit more seriously. So with that being said, man, if you do see me next time, hopefully it will be sometime soon, not months ahead. But I'm rambling on at this point. But until my next one, man, we out here, man.